Okay, so hey guys, and welcome back to another Axel 72 video. And in today's video, I'm going to be doing yet again another Patreon requested video. So this will be out early. I mean, the time of recording this, it's the 19th of August to date this recording. So this will be out on that day, and it will be out for Patreon members, and then it will be out closer to actual fight week around about the Canelo versus Crawford fight. And of course, you'll probably be able to guess, what event the fight is on that I'm going to be doing a prediction for, and it'll be in the title, of course. That is Callum Walsh versus Fernando Vargas Jr. Again, it's a requested video. If you want to request any kind of videos yourself, feel free to join the Patreon, and there's a very good selection of members on there already, and I really appreciate all the support in which I'm getting with it, and the link will be in the description. And also like the video if you do indeed like the video, subscribe if you're new, and let's get straight into this. So this is a part of the early release of the Canelo versus Crawford undercard. Like I say, at the time of recording, there is only three fights which have been released on the undercard. That is this one, Mbili vs Martinez, and then Mohamed Alakal as well, who's also fighting on the card. So, it's pressure, I would say, on these kind of fighters because they have to really live up to an expectation. And I think Callum Walsh has an immense amount of expectation upon him just because of he is kind of the face of UFC boxing and Dana White boxing and everything that Sela is trying to do. I mean, Callum Walsh has basically been brought up on the UFC Fight Pass, promoted from a low-rated prospect by Dana White. I mean, Dana White hasn't always been pushing his fights, but they've been there from, a pretty early position. He's still only realistically an up-and-coming prospect. He's just taking that first kind of step into a bit of a bigger fight now. And so he is the guy who's been pushed by Dana White. I've always wondered what instigated, Dana White to want to promote and want to push Callum Walsh, because Dana White on multiple occasions tried to get into boxing, and this was kind of the only fighter in which he's ever really pushed or promoted successfully. Obviously, now we've got everything going on with Sela, so things are a bit different, but yeah, there's obviously a high amount of expectation upon Callum Walsh. He's been boxing on the 360 boxing promotions, and I mean, there's plenty of fighters on that promotion. I mean, just, you know, recently there's been some good shows on there as well. I mean, a standout name in which I'm enjoying watching at the moment is Mizuki Haruta, who's on them shows. But Dana, again, like I say, is only wanting to promote Callum Walsh. So, like I say, a lot of pressure on him, and he's on a big Netflix show. There's going to be plenty of eyes on him. I don't know if he's going to be the co-main or if he's going to be a bit lower down, but still, there's going to probably be millions of eyes on him. And like I say, there's a big expectation and a big pressure upon him. And he has got also a great team around him as well. I mean, I think you can clearly see that there is, a high level of talent there that is with Callum Walsh. He's a very skilled fighter, and I think with the team around him, and even with his coach as well, he's got Freddie Roach in the corner. Like, he doesn't just train anybody. So, like I say, there is that expectation upon him, and he's got all the right people around him. So if he doesn't go on to win a world title, then that's quite a disappointing thing, because I'm sure he's, gonna get more and more money pumped into him the more and more he keeps winning. And again, like I say, I think he has all the capabilities and potential to be a world champion. It's just if he actually will be able to get there. And like I say, this is meant to be his first, on paper, kind of tough test. And I mean, if he wins, then he might be made into a bit of a face of Sela. I mean, we don't really know what kind of route Sela are trying to go down. Are they trying to just go and promote the big events, or are they actually trying to build up some of their own fighters as well? There's been plenty of talks, and again, us as fans aren't really too sure. But again, this is meant to be his first tough test. Same with Fernando Vargas Jr. as well, though. This is definitely, in my opinion, his toughest test by far to date, and I'll talk a bit more about him in just a moment. But Walsh has been on a good run, though. I mean, he's been slowly progressing through the ranks. He's had all of his last 5 fights not go the full distance, and well, just the same as what Fernando Vargas Jr. has as well. But I think the knockouts and stuff that he's been getting have been a bit better than that of Vargas Jr. I mean, obviously his last fight ended by a cut. Early decision, which was a technical decision, which obviously isn't really, the most impressive thing, but he was winning the fight. Whereas Vargas Jr. not too long ago, I think it was 2 fights ago, had his fight stopped due to a cut, and I didn't think Vargas Jr. was performing that good in that fight. So again, a little bit of contrast there, but obviously, Walsh has been going through the ranks slowly. There's not been any kind of big jump so far. I think his toughest test on paper to date so far was probably the Dean Sutherland one, and he dispatched of him brutally in first round fashion. And again, that was a performance in which I think really opened up at least my eyes to see that Callum Walsh is a good fighter. And so, that's where I've seen more and more improvements. And again, in his last fight, I did again think he looked improved. Both fighters have a similar KO ratio. I mean, on paper, Vargas Jr. has that higher ratio, but, Walsh has had less fights. He's only 24 years of age, whereas Vargas is that little bit older. I think he's 28. So again, that little bit older. They're both southpaws, which might make it a bit tricky. I mean, Walsh, I think, had to face that. I don't know if Vargas has had to face that just yet. But again, like I say, I'm sure it won't be anything they can't handle. And they both recently have had bad cuts as well, which definitely, possibly could hinder. I mean, I'd like to hope not, because I think this fight perhaps could gel into a nice fight. But, with them both having quite bad fight-ending cuts in recent times, it could cause problems. For Vargas Jr., I mean, he's been, like I say, progressing well, delivering some good stoppages and getting some good performances, but he is still trying to get out of his father's shadow. And I mean, he's got his brothers alongside him with Amado and Emiliano, but at the same time, with the junior name being involved, it's the same as Chris Eubank Jr. It's very difficult to get out of your father's shadow, especially when you are on the come up, on the climb. Of course, having that name can help give you opportunities and things like that. And Fernando Vargas Senior was a great fighter, a former world super welterweight champion who fought the likes of Felix Trinidad and Oscar De La Hoya. He was a great name, and I mean, he's even in the corner of Vargas Jr. But again, I think he has to do something special in this fight to be able to get him out of the shadow of his father. And he might be able to do that if he wins in impressive fashion, and he probably will be. I think he definitely will be the front runner out of all the brothers, because at the moment they're all around the same kind of level. Emiliano is with Top Rank and has been performing well, and you'd have to argue perhaps is the most, on paper from what I've seen, skilled out of them all. But Amado's also undefeated, I think 13-0. So again, they're all around abouts in a similar position, and they're all kind of battling it out to be the one that's standing out the most. And Fernando has a real opportunity here to be able to do that. And to speak about both fighters a bit more individually, Walsh as a fighter, I think he is the much more accurate fighter out of the two, and that accuracy has definitely been improved in more recent fights. He's got that good timing with fast combination counters. He can step into a nice combination or can step into a nice singular shot. It's a good variation there, and he can mix up the speed, mix up the power in his strikes as well, which is something which comes with composure and comes with discipline and improvement and training of that, of course, in sparring. He's got good swiping hooks. He can fight at a mid-range. I think both of these fighters are mid-range type fighters, so yes, they both have power and can get knockouts, but they're not just in the pocket slugging out for the most part. He can fight on the front or the back foot. He's, like I say, composed. I don't think he's greedy in combinations. Again, he'll come in with his combinations, which are, quite fast hands, most of the time, and then he'll stop. He'll take that step back and he'll move around a bit more. And again, that's showing that there is a good level of fight IQ there, and that's something in which, again, I've been impressed to see. He's got a nice tight guard, and he finds openings well as well, and of course he has that youthfulness in him, which I think is he is looking better in the fights which are going a little bit longer. Obviously he's not really been in any fights as of recent which have really gone the full distance. Negatives about him, I think at times in the past maybe a little bit more. He has headhunted a bit, and his head to body combinations can be a bit off at times when he comes in a bit wide with his hooks. Like I said, they are a bit slappy at times, and they come from wide and they can land nicely and can catch opponents off guard when they come from wide, but they can be a bit too wide and a bit slappy as well. He has quite a wide stance, which can sometimes square up as well, and his head movement is limited, especially also, he does stand quite tall as well. So with them two things together, it means he can get caught with shots, even with the tight guard. He can get caught around the guard. He doesn't always land his jab the best, and neither does Vargas. I think they both do struggle a little bit at actually landing their jab. He can be too relaxed, and I don't think he's had too much of an actual physical test yet. And the fights in which he's had in more recent times, which have gone to a decision, which, like I say, hasn't been for a little while, I think he has struggled a bit, and into the later rounds he's got drawn into a bit of a firefight. And there was one which was a little while ago now. I can't exactly remember the opponent's name, but he got caught into a firefight into the later rounds. I think it was a 10-round contest or an 8-round contest, and I saw him get clipped with multiple shots from him just standing tall. And he was, like I say, getting drawn into that firefight, and he got clipped really hard. And yes, that shows he got a good chin, but you could tell that it rocked him, and it did, damage him a bit as well. So again, that chin's something that really hasn't been tested a tremendous amount just yet. And again, if this does go into the later rounds, will it be tested again? Vargas as a fighter, he's, I think, technically skilled. I think both fighters, again, like I say, are technically skilled fighters with fast hands. And again, that's what might make this a bit of a chess match for as long as it lasts. He tries to follow off his jab, but like I say, actually landing that jab in the first place can be a bit of an issue for him. He is a mid-range fighter himself, and of course he does carry that power that doesn't have to be loaded up. I think it's power which is a natural power. Again, I think it can come with most of his shots that he throws. He's got solid feints, solid shot variation, keeps his shape well, perhaps a bit better than that of Walsh. He circles off well, and he can be physical. He's showcased that he can, even into even when things are getting a bit tough for him, he can try and push you off and can keep trying to, trudging things on, even if he is facing a bit of adversity himself. Like when he got cut, he can circle off well, and he can walk you onto shots quite nicely as well. When he actually plants his feet and walks you onto shots, then he can land really nice shots, and that's probably where I've seen him do his best work. Negatives about him, I think he can have his chin in the air quite often. He's obviously not really been tested a tremendous amount. I think the level of opposition has been much lower from Fernando Vargas Jr. from what I've seen. His head movement's limited. He can just come in with single shots a bit at times, and can early on jump a bit too far out of range and be then reacting to feints as well. His accuracy and technique of throwing hooks is very off, and I think his accuracy in general can be a major problem. He doesn't deal with head movement at all very well, and he can force the finish and doesn't really take that time to assess when his opponent's hurt to actually try and pick out the nice shots. He doesn't always time the best counters. Like I say, when he plants his feet, he can walk you onto shots a bit, but sometimes he's not doing that, and he doesn't fight off the ropes if he's on the back foot the best, and he does tire and fade, I believe, as well. And that's, again, like I say, going off fights in more recent times which haven't even gone that longer distance. Who do I think is going to win? I think that Callum Walsh is going to win via TKO in round 6. From what I've seen so far of Fernando Vargas Jr.'s career, it doesn't fill me with a tremendous amount of hope that he will be able to win a fight like this. I think Callum Walsh, again, has a great team around him and is improving with every contest, and I think he could probably walk Vargas onto shots. I think Vargas is going to be wary of Walsh, probably give him that respect, go onto the back foot, and then be a bit more limited and not be able to do his best work. He might be able to time Walsh onto a shot if Walsh gets a bit too comfortable, and that could, perhaps hurt Walsh a bit, but I think inevitably he could beat down Vargas in the corner if Vargas is sat there struggling to get off himself into, even the 5th or the 6th round. And then I could just see a Callum Walsh stoppage, which would be quite a comfortable performance because, like I say, I just think that Fernando Vargas Jr. isn't at the level to be able to deal with somebody who is just getting better and better in Callum Walsh. Then who we can go on to fight next? I mean, I don't want to see him get put straight into a world title fight or even an interim world title fight just yet. I think he does have to keep developing a bit more. So something like a Josh Kelly, I think, could be an excellent fight for him. Or a Nikita Tszyu, again, could be a good fight for him. Maybe it's a bit early for Nikita. Or a Charles Conwell. Obviously, Conwell fought Garcia, and then Garcia went on to fight Zayas. And so if Conwell would have won against Garcia, maybe he would have ended up fighting Zayas. Not entirely sure if that would have happened, but still, there isn't really a tremendous amount there for Conwell anymore. And so if he's wanting and willing to take the tough test, which has higher rewards, even though he will have to be the away fighter, that's something that he's not used to, Conwell, then that could be a great fight to be made probably on, a Sela event at some point as well. And it probably will just be from now on that for as long as Callum Walsh is winning, he is fighting on Sela events. So yeah, that is it for today's video. Hope you did enjoy. Like the video if you didn't like the video, subscribe if you're new, and thanks for watching.